Hello, everybody. I'm Michael Morocco.
And I'm Bobby Sal, and we are the Hazmat Guys, bringing you knowledge and insight to make your job a little bit easier and safer.
Let's take a minute to hear about today's sponsors.
Hey, have you heard about the Decon Field Guide?
Oh, yeah. The First Line Technologies, the DFG, has everything that I'm looking for in the field of emerging threats.
Yeah, the DFG has a brand new look with updated time-saving resources such as instructional videos, guidance documents, dwell timings, FAQs, even a ton more than that.
You're preaching to the choir, man. I've already been using the guide documents and the instructional videos on a bunch of classes that we're teaching throughout the country.
Yeah, so simply download the Decon Field Guide app to your smartphone or tablet to access the full threat library, step-by-step instructions, and instructional videos. Download the Decon Field Guide app today. You can find it on the Apple App Store or Google Play.
Let's get to the show.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Hazmat Guys, episode 249. I'm Bobby, and I'm with Mike. Hi, Mike.
Hey, everybody.
Hi.
Out there in podcast land.
Yes. Just to kind of put it out, I know it's been all over social media, but we have a couple of new classes that went up. Bob Coscignano put up the Hazmat Operations Refresher with him and his good friend over there, and that is a pretty tight course, 3 hours, and it's a great price. If I do say so myself.
Yep. And by all means, you know, if this is something that you like, you see and you like, bring your department on board. Be like, hey, listen, we can't do that much training. COVID is taking over the world. Yeah. You know, I can sit at home and do this refresher. I don't have to get dressed. I don't have to come in. I don't have to do any of the other stuff. Just let me sit at home and take this course.
Yeah, and the other one I'm looking at. Actually, I'm going to take this class too. Is the Hellfighter U foam module, the basic foams. Looks pretty good.
Yeah. And who is that done by again?
Frank Bateman. He was the guy that ran the Hellfighter U school at TEACS.
Yes.
Texas A&M. And I actually went to the physical iteration of this class before it was shuttered. And it was incredible. So he basically recreated the entire thing on the platform, and it's exceptional. I was editing it up, and I wanted to stop and take it.
The only thing I'm a little wary about is, you know, I don't understand how everybody's supposed to get, 300 gallons of diesel and put it in their backyard. I get all the other parts of the course. It was a great course. I've got a huge.
Yeah, the neighbors don't like it.
Neighbors don't like it.
So today's podcast is it was a question that started in conversation with a couple of people, and we're going to call this radiation's midlife crisis. Right? And so we started...
Are you saying that there may be elements that are going to try to identify as different elements?
I don't know, but we're going to talk about half-lives matter.
All right.
Because I can say that. I don't know if I can say that. We might be canceled just for saying that.
We can say whatever. The only people who can cancel us is us.
That's a good point. All right. Well, half-lives matter. There you go.
They absolutely do. They really, in all honesty, they really do. There's a lot of responses that we will go on in which the half-life actually changes our operation. Yes. So
just from different perspective, where it's used, kind of thing.
Yeah. So it's an interesting topic because it's one of these power of numbers thing, right? Like there's a problem in trying to predict the half-life. If I were to reach into a bag and pull out one single atom, I could not look at that atom and know when it's going to decay and throw off the radiation, right? It could be milliseconds, it could be centuries, it could be millennial. There's no way of knowing.
Yeah. This is really close to like when polymerization. Like there's nobody can tell you when a polymerization is going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, you can in polymerization, you could at least see like something maybe heating up or
ramping,
like it's going up. This man, that one single atom, just one day is like, all right, I've had enough. I'm turning to another element, and boom, it decays and it transforms.
Yeah, But if if you have a large enough sample of that element, right, and if you were watching this very carefully, and we have what we call a significant sample size, that's statistically significant sample size, you begin to notice patterns emerging with the decomposition, with the half-life of a radioactive isotope.
Yeah. So let's take a second and talk about the half-life itself, right? So the half-life is the amount of time it takes for half of your material to decompose. I've heard the word burn before, and I try to correct people when they say, no, it's not burning, right? This isn't a burn thing. This is a decomposition.
It's popping off.
It's popping off, yeah, inside the atom. And sometimes I can be a stickler with words because I don't, words carry other meanings that can then be brought in, and that's how a lot of these myths start off, is just using the wrong word and using it over and over again. So it's not a burn. It is actually a decay.
Right.
Right. And it takes the same amount of time for half of the remaining radioactive atoms to decay, and then the same amount of time for another half of those atoms to decay, and so on. Hence the term half-life.
Right. And so the time is actually a static number. It's almost a log. We're going to come back around to this, but it's a logarithmic decay. So that's called a half-life. I think that's pretty simple, right?
Yeah, and it's and it really is crazy because I don't know which of those atoms are going to decay, but when I look at the big picture, I know at least half of them are going to decay in a certain amount of time. So, and this half-life of a radioisotope, it's not linear.
No, it's not straight.
It's not a straight line, right? It's a curve, so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, if you're doing
like a hockey stick,
like a hockey stick, yeah, because it's half and half and half. So, for example, you wouldn't be able to find the remaining amount of isotope at 4.7 half-lives by finding the midpoint between 5 and 4 half-lives.
Right. Now, there is an equation for this. You can figure this out, and we're going to nerd out for a second here. There is an equation. So I'm not going to say I'm going to try. I'm going to try to describe it in podcasting land, but doing complex math in podcasting is, I think this is a first for us.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's not calculus.
No, well,
it's just basic logarithmic functions.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, it's all right. So we have something called a natural logarithm, and what a logarithm basically is when you start to multiply numbers by each other. So a log base 10 means that I'm multiplying numbers to the power of 10.
Right.
So 10 times 10 is what? A million or a billion? Right, 10 to the 10th.
10 to the 10th power, right.
Okay, so when you hear that word log, don't be like, what the hell is that? It's just basically the exponent that we take things to, right? So ln in this equation stands for a natural logarithm, where the base e log is not the base 10 log.
Right.
That you would normally see on your calculator. Now,
that is a common thing in college.
Yeah, so it's a different exponent than just 10, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. And the numerator, or that top number, is the amount of radioactive isotope that you start with. So basically, what I am starting with, what I have when I'm going to begin my time, is the number on the top.
Right. And that's in whatever the hell you want. Weight. It could be grams, pounds, butt loads, whatever it might be, whatever it is. But, you got to keep the apples and the apples and the oranges. So the denominator, the bottom part, is the amount of radioactive isotope left at some time, T. And T is the half-life of the radioisotope. So if I had an incredibly accurate scale and I said, okay, I have 5 pounds of radioisotope, I can plug this stuff into the formula and get the actual number. right? And so I can actually figure out the half-life. So if you know the half-life and the amount of radioactive that you start with, you can use the equation to calculate the amount remaining of the radioactive isotope at any time. Actually, you can go to, well, you know, it's not any time. I would say it's any time up to 0. Because you can't go past, it's gone.
No, you definitely can't. So how do we actually use this stuff? Well, there's ways that we can use it in our hazmat response, and there's ways that it's used out in the world.
We kind of know about the hazmat. You know, I think for the most part, people are pretty comfortable. But there's some cool stuff with radioactive dating, right? We've heard this on Discovery Channel, whatever channel you listen to or whatever. They talk about carbon-14 dating, right? We've carbon dated this, the Shroud of Turin, whatever the hell it is, right? And so carbon-14, that is a specific radioactive isotope of carbon, right? And it's produced actually in the upper atmosphere by cosmic radiation, right? So there's carbon up there, and it's blasted by cosmic radiation. And what happens is the carbon-containing compound in the atmosphere is actually carbon dioxide. So don't worry about the math of that. But it's a very small isotope of the carbon dioxide that contains actually C14, carbon-14.
Right. Now, the plants, they turn around, and if there's a constant amount of C14 in the atmosphere, all right, because it's constantly being produced, and we have like an equilibrium, so we know how much is in the atmosphere. The plants turn around and they use that carbon during their photosynthesis. They bring it into them, and part of the metabolic process incorporates the carbon 14 into the structure of the plant, into
the stem, the leaves,
stems, the leaves, all the stuff. And then all those things that the plant makes then gets eaten by other animals. And so now the plant structure, those molecules go into the body of whatever is eating it. It becomes digested. That C14 now becomes part of the structures of all living things.
Yeah. And so as long as that organism is alive, the amount of C14 that's in its cellular structure remains constant. But then she dies.
She dies.
And now the amount of C14 starts to go down.
Yes. And since the scientists know and understand the half-life of that C14, which is about what? 5,730 years?
Yeah, ish.
Ish, give or take. They can turn around and find out how long ago that organism stopped living, right? Because if they're constantly taking in and the atmosphere is at a constant and all living things reach an equilibrium with the atmosphere, as soon as it dies, now I can go, oh, hey, look at that. There's only half the amount of carbon in there, so I know that we have gone through at least 5,730 years when this thing was alive.
Right. And now to recap this, it can be used to determine the age of something that was once alive. It can't determine the age of like a rock or my helmet.
Right. Yeah, it has to be alive. So,
right.
But there's other types of radioactive dating, and how do they determine things that weren't alive? Well, they just use other isotopes, such as like potassium-40. Sometimes different amounts of uranium in something can give you an idea of how long it has been since that was created.
Now, on a little bit of a different topic, way back in the 1930s, there were some scientists that discovered that we could initiate nuclear reactions, and we can control them, right? And they actually accomplished this by bombarding a large isotope, right? We're talking about a big soccer ball or beach ball type size, and I'm not talking literally. When we're talking about when we're talking about there was a picture that almost blew my mind. It was a picture of the difference in size between the Earth and a single grain of sand is the difference in size between a grain of sand and an atom.
It's crazy small.
right? So like, whoa. So when I talk about a beach ball, I'm being comical about that, but we're talking about a big one, right? So if we bombard a large isotope with a second smaller one, in this experiments and stuff like that, we use neutrons to really blast it. We can get some really fantastic reactions going on, right?
Yeah, you want to be even a little bit more mind blown, right? When we start to try to do these bombardings of isotopes, those neutrons have to hit the nucleus, right? It's not just hitting
Right, it's
the
not a
atom.
glancing blow.
Yeah, it doesn't just hit the atom; it hits the nucleus. Now, think about the proportions that Bob just talked about. Now, the size of the atom versus the size of the nucleus. If you took an atom, like a helium atom, and you blew it up so that the electrons, the outer electron shell, was the same size as the 16th chapel, like a cathedral. The nucleus of that atom would be the size of a grain of sand.
So accuracy counts on this one.
So, yeah, you got to be really accurate, like sniper shit. All right? But the collision, when one of these neutrons collides with one of these nuclei, they end up breaking the nucleus into a bunch of different pieces. And when we break that into a bunch of different pieces, then we are now creating multiple elements out of that one element.
Yes. This is one of the things that blows people's minds, that you're actually changing elements as you flick these things off.
Yeah, and this is the process called nuclear fission, where we take a uranium and we blow it apart to make a whole bunch of different other molecules.
Right. Fission. F-I.
F-I.
We're going to come around to F-U.
Hey.
We're going to come around to the F-U later. But, let's say, okay, so we take uranium-235 and we blast it with a neutron and we get barium, krypton, and 3 more neutrons, which now is the 3 neutrons that are coming out like pool balls, looking for other pool balls to smack into, and they're looking for other bits of uranium. So nuclear fission, they release a ton of energy, right? When we think about nuclear reactors, this is what we're talking about. So they're efficient, they're clean, they give off tons of energy. Where does the energy come from?
Well, that's a really good question because we know from physics that energy and matter cannot be created or destroyed.
Right.
You can't just magically make energy appear. You can't just magically make stuff appear in the same regards. So what's really interesting is if you take really, really, really accurate measurements of the amount of mass that all these particles have, and you weigh them before, you do the reaction, and you weigh them after, and I'm talking everything, you're going to notice that there is a size difference between what you had and what you now have. There's literally going to be mass that's missing.
Wait a second. How, if mass can't be converted or lost, how do you have lost?
Right. So matter cannot be created nor destroyed. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. But there's nothing that says that you can't take that mass and convert it into energy. This is called a mass defect. It is literally the material that's missing, all that matter that just randomly disappeared got turned to energy. And what's so crazy is that you really need very, very tiny amount of mass to create a huge amount of energy.
Yeah, and I bet I'm going to bet everybody, maybe not everybody, but most people that are listening to this have this formula probably on one of their nerd shirts.
They know it. I guarantee you they know it. They don't even know they know it.
Yeah, you can actually calculate the amount of energy that's produced during this nuclear reaction with a very simple equation. I mean, paltry. I mean, you can make this on a napkin. Anybody can come up with this. It was guy who came up with this.
Oh, it was some little known physicist. Yeah,
Einstein.
Ah,
E = mc². That was what it was.
Yeah, E
Yeah, that's
equals mc squared. If you've ever wondered what that means, that is literally the equation to convert energy to mass or mass into energy. And in this equation, we have E, we have m, we have c, and we have c being squared.
Right.
So E is the amount of energy that can be produced. So
Okay.
if I have, whatever, if you want to do it in joules, I need a certain amount of energy. Let's say I need 100 units of energy. I can take a certain amount of mass, which is going to be m, and I can convert that over to energy. And if I take that number and I multiply it by the speed of light, which is c, and I square that, or not, yeah, I take that and I square the speed of light and I multiply it by the mass, boom. I have a very, very large number.
Right, and remember, the speed of light is squared, and making that, anytime you do that kind of thing, it magnifies everything incredible amounts. With so if you take a look at the equation of, like, for the fission of uranium-235, right? Uranium-235, we have 2 molecules of that. We hit it with a neutron, and we get barium, krypton, and 3 neutrons. That's a tremendous amount of M, right?
Yeah. So just to give you an idea of that, you talked about that speed of light squared. A 19 kiloton bomb, a 19 kiloton nuclear device, all that power, all that explosive energy, all that light and heat and shockwave and giant mushroom cloud and three-headed people, all that comes from 0.9 grams of matter being converted to energy. Like, think about how much a gram weighs, and if you take just a gram and convert it all into energy, you literally have a 19 kiloton bomb.
That's incredible.
That is insane. That is insane. Okay, but notice 1 neutron is used and 3 are produced. This is almost kind of like the little COVID situation that we're in right now, right? Like, I get sick and I spread it to 3 people. Well, when a uranium gets hit with a neutron, it produces 3 more.
Right.
If they encounter other uranium atoms, then they can initiate other fusion, producing even more neutrons. And now you have that domino effect, just like we do when we're spreading COVID. 1 creates 3. Those 3 create another 3, so now I have 9. Those 9 create another 3, so now I have, 27?
27.
Yeah, and it just grows in that fashion.
Right. So this chain reaction depends on the release of more neutrons than you put in. So if you have a 1-to-1, it's going to be kind of a fizzle, right? It doesn't really go that great. But if I can get 1-to-10, well, I exponentially bring up, which means it's consumed faster, but that's for another day. But if you were to write the equation for the nuclear fission of uranium-238, the more abundant isotope of uranium, you use 1 neutron in and get 1 back out. And I said that was kind of a sucky one, right?
Yeah.
So you can have a chain reaction with certain isotopes such as uranium-238.
But the isotopes that produce an excess of neutrons in their fission, they are the ones that help support this chain reaction. All right? This is what makes something fissible. So when we hear about Iran producing weapons-grade material, it's because they're finding the uranium that is, what is it, uranium-235?
235 is the one.
Yeah, and plutonium-239 are 2 perfect examples of what you would need to do this. So when you hear them saying, well, they're enriching the uranium, they're making weapons-grade uranium, it's because you have to sort through all the uranium molecules out there and be like, oh, I got a 235. Let me go put it in this pile over here. Oh,
Yes.
Here's another one. I got to go put it in this pile over here. Because you need those specific isotopes to actually create the explosion, that fissible chain reaction that you're looking for.
Now the thing is that pile of uranium-235s that are over in the side corner has to reach a certain amount. And Mike said that there was almost with 0.9 grams in order to make a how many kiloton?
19.
19 kiloton, right? So what that term is called critical mass. That's the minimum amount of fissionable matter you need to support the self-sustaining chemical chain reaction in this. And this is directly related to the amount of neutrons that will be able to be produced on the output side.
Right. So if the sample is small, then the neutrons, they're gonna fire off and they're not gonna hit anything. Right? Remember we talked before about how small the nucleus is compared to the atom. It's really, really, really small. So if I don't have a lot of opportunities for that neutron to hit something, it's going to pass through. It's not going to hit another nucleus, and absolutely nothing is going to happen. So when we have a giant chunk of uranium-235, and it's not able, or there's not enough of it to be able to get this chain reaction going, that's called a subcritical mass. And it just it can heat up, right? There can be warmth taken out of that. It can get really, really hot, but it's not going to detonate. All right. And it's this concept that is used in a nuclear reactor. All right. We have uranium and plutonium, and they are at subcritical masses to the point that they heat up really, really hot, but they don't detonate.
Right.
All right. And if we were to take this concept of fission splitting apart, we can actually turn around and do the opposite of that. We can take atoms and chunk them together.
Yeah,
and
it's badass.
And if the atoms are really, really light, like hydrogen, we end up having that same kind of reaction where there's less mass starting off with, less mass in the end than starting off with. So shortly after they discovered fusion, shortly after they discovered fission, they ended up being like, hey, crap, we can use this fission reaction to create a fusion reaction. This fusion reaction is the exact same reaction that ends up powering the sun.
That's crazy, man.
It's nuts.
So, in a series of nuclear reactions in the sun, right? The sun is incredibly badass. People regularly call it, oh, look at all those nuclear explosions. They think of it like Hiroshima or Fat Boy and Little Man, and that is not what's happening. It's the polar opposite of what's happening there. In there, they take 4 hydrogen atoms, right, which is H1, right? There's 1 isotopes, right? And they are fused. Incredible pressure, incredible heat. I mean, in the millions and millions of degrees. And billions of these reactions are happening every second, right? And the release is tremendous. When we say, oh, this 0.9 grams gave off a 19 kiloton, that's paltry.
Nothing.
in relation to what's happening on the sun. That is insane. And they've done it, right?
Yes. Well, that is what a fission bomb is. All right. So here on Earth, we take deuterium, which is H2, and tritium, which is H3, and these are all isotopes of hydrogen, and we can use them to actually create that reaction on Earth. And when we look at things like hydrogen bombs are in the scale order of 1,000 times 10 to 100. 100. If it's a kiloton to a megaton, that's 1,000, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's 1,000 times more powerful than a fission bomb. So basically, what they have to do in order to the power that's needed to squish an atom like hydrogen together and form this energy release, you actually require an atom bomb to initiate the hydrogen bomb.
Right. There's 2 stages there.
Yeah, which is absolutely crazy, and so much happens at that moment. It's absolutely insane. The process of fusing atoms together like hydrogen in the sun gives us something that a lot of people don't even realize or understand what happens. In that reaction, you create every single atom that ever existed. Whether it's in a hydrogen bomb or whether it's in the sun, all other atoms outside of hydrogen are created inside fusion reactions. everything.
times.
So everything that you see started off in a sun.
Good stuff.
We're all just stardust.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Hazmat Guys.
You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and our YouTube channel at The Hazmat Guys, and take a moment to call our comment hotline at 843-628-1484.
And we are always looking forward to your feedback about information or interesting incidents that you were a part of, so send us a note at feedback@thehazmatguys.com.
Remember, guys, don't just get on the job, get into the job.